India loves a big brawny diesel SUV. The ruggedness, go anywhere capability, and massive size all mean power and dominance. Having entered the segment with the Gloster, MG Motor India is now upgrading its full-size SUV to something more advanced. Lo and behold, the MG Majestor is here.
The new MG Majestor is the brand's latest offering, replacing the Gloster in the brand's lineup. And yes, it's not only better, but even more capable off-road. And that's the first thing we're going to test out with the car. And that's actually going off-roading with the Majestor.
The Majesta is the first SUV in its segment to get triple differential locks, bringing more capability and control where the going gets rough.
The Majestor also comes with a feature called as an M crawl function. Now this is essentially a segment first feature, and the idea here is that the car can do the crawling for you, ensuring that the rear center differential and the rear differential work together, and the car can climb very easily without too much of the driver intervention. Now to engage that, you need to first push the car back into neutral, put the center differential lock in, put the rear differential lock in, and then press the button that says CCO. Now this is the CCO mode or the M crawl function. And once I shift it into gear, I need to press CCO mode again. And it will automatically select the gear in the right choice and I can start going on my own. Now the idea here is that the car does everything that it needs to do, including acceleration, braking, and all I need to do is steer the car in the right direction, and it will climb on its own, giving the right amount of power required. All of that the car can figure out on its own without my intervention. My leg is not on the accelerator, it's not on the brake either.
The massive 219mm ground clearance hardly makes an obstacle challenging. The electronic intervention is extensive and the SUV does most of the heavy lifting. Switching from 4 high to 4 low is easy at the turn of the dial, and you get power spread equally to the front and rear wheels with the center differential lock in place. The front and rear differential locks send an equal amount of power to either axle. Even if one wheel can't find traction, the other wheel gets power to pull you out of a slippery situation. MG says the suspension setup has been Indianized with more localized components for higher wear and tear. This also makes it easier to replace after a hard day of off-roading.
Starting with the things I like, the Majestor is fantastic when it comes to ride quality. It glides over bad roads, and by glides I mean it really is soft. The suspension setup is plush and it's quite pliant. The absorption is fantastic. At lower speeds you feel some of the niggles, some of the undulations coming in, but at cruising speeds it just glides over bad roads, and I think that's what most people will like. Pothole ridden roads, broken patches, no tarmac, rocky gravel terrain, whatever it may be, I think it just glides over bad roads, and I think that's the biggest takeaway. For most people who are buying the Majestor, they will be taking it to the hinterland, to places where probably it's a construction site, and I think in that kind of scenarios it works fabulously well. The other thing that I like is the engine itself. Good old school turbocharged diesel engine, who wouldn't like that? 213 bhp, 478 Nm of peak torque, everything works fabulously well with that 8-speed automatic transmission. There is that obvious lag at the bottom end. You have to wait say up to 2000 rpm for speeds to build, but after that power delivery is quite nice. There is no punch as such. I think that is something that I do miss out on the modern day diesels, but power delivery in itself is very linear, very capable, and climbs quickly. Up to 4000 rpm you have absolutely no complaints and you're still doing very good speeds. This one actually cruises well at around 100 kilometers per hour at say 2200 rpm, and it sits very comfortably there. And that's what most people will be doing, because this is a mile muncher, right? You are buying it for longer distances, and that's where the Majestor shines out on the highway. I like its road mannerisms as well. You do not sit very high. You sit at a very good position. You have a nice commanding view of the road, And I think that's something most people will like. It is not exactly car-like, you still sit higher, but this is very engaging in its own way. The steering feedback is nice, it's quite light at lower speeds, at higher speeds it weighs up, and you also have different steering modes, so you can select between having it to be very light, which is obviously making it very easy in the city, but also weighing it up at say higher speeds, out on the highway where you want a little more feedback coming in. At lower speeds it just gets a little too light for my liking. I feel there's a bit of play there, but overall it's a nice and feedback rich steering that way. I'm also not a fan of the body roll, but I understand that it is evident for a car this size. This is a very tall SUV. Of course, ladder frame means that it sits much higher, and while the trade-off is higher ground clearance, you also have this to deal with. So around corners, around hard corners, you will feel a lot of the lateral movement, and yes, it can scare you sometimes. Braking is decent on the Majesta. It is spongy to a certain extent given the weight of the car. Of course, it is a lot boat-like, but even then I think it's been very well balanced, and the feel on the pedal itself is quite nice. Let's talk about things that I'm not a fan of. Well, a lot of the plastic bits inside the cabin are not something that I'm a big fan of. I feel it's a little inconsistent. Could have been nicer. It is nicer than the Gloster, but yes, the plastics do not feel very sturdy. I would have liked a more solid feeling cabin in that sense. Yes, there are soft touch materials, leatherette all over the dashboard. There are multiple surfaces, textures all over. So yes, there is a premium feeling, agreed on that, but it does not feel built to last. That is something that I would have liked on the Majesta. The cabin on the MG Majestor is a step up from the Gloster. There are familiar elements, but overall this is a much nicer and a more pleasing cabin. The front seats are electrically adjustable. I get a 12-way adjustable seat. The front passenger seat is 8-way adjustable. Both come with massage and ventilation functions as well as a memory function. The leatherette upholstery of course feels very nice. In fact, the seats are very nice. The cushioning, the bolstering all works very well. There are newer elements in the cabin too, like the 12.3-inch digital cluster. That is fantastic. I think graphics there again are fantastic, and you also get this newer 12.3-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is a more modern unit. The graphics are nicer, crisper overall, and even the fluidity in terms of usage is very nice. I quite like it. Having said that, there are little annoyances here and there. For instance, if I want to control the AC functions, then the time to load it up takes a while. You also have most of the other functions loaded into that screen. That is a bummer. For instance, if the memory function is something that I want to access for the seats, I have to do it through the screen. The headlamp leveling and headlamp functions in general, again, I have to access it through the screen. Most of the Majesta owners will be spending a lot of their time in the second row, and I think this is the most important seat here. And there is a glaring issue. Under-thigh support is just not enough. I am 6'2" and I'm sitting knees up in a car that's over 5 meters in length. Space should not have been a problem. Headroom is okay. Knee room is okay. Leg room is also okay. But under-thigh support, that could have been better overall. Now, MG has provided other creature comforts, like this is a sliding and reclining seat. I also get a center armrest with cup holders right there. All of that is fine, but this will get uncomfortable over long drives. Another glaring omission, no sun blinds in a car that's around 50 lakh rupees. At over 5 meters long, the third row is supposed to be usable on the Majesta. Now let me get in and give you a true test of what that is like. At 6'2", I think I'm a good judge for that space. Let's pull this at the back. Yes, and there you go. So the space is not bad at all. This can come further back, so I'm not giving a true test, but even then I think this is a nice space to be in. Not for long drives maybe, but people who are around 5'7", 5'6" will be equally fine here. Under-thigh support could have been better, and I think just the overall sense of space is decent. Headroom is just decent, nice and big quarter glass, that I really like. I think it just adds to the roominess in the cabin. Cup holder, air vents, again very nice to have. And the big caveat, only one USB type A, which is right here. You do not get one for the other side of the passengers.
The feature list is extensive with a 360-degree camera, a 12-speaker sound system, ambient lighting, air purifier, dual wireless charging, and more. The safety stack includes 6 airbags, ABS with EBD, hill descent control, heated ORVMs, and level 2 ADAS with 13 features. The Majesta scores well on styling. The massive grille, flat bonnet, and split LED DRLs all bring ruggedness and tech in a stunning look. The boxy body shell further allows for an imposing stance, and this is a hard to miss SUV out on the road. It also gets the right amount of chrome on the grille, on the 19-inch alloy wheels, and the tailgate that only makes it stand out further. Other telltale rugged elements include the front and rear guard plates on the bumper and twin exhausts.
Who should buy the MG Majestor? There are customers who want their vehicle to be future ready, and I think for those customers the MG Majestor fits in very well. It is capable, off-road works well, the ride quality is fantastic, and it is really up there in terms of features, beating its closest rival, the Toyota Fortuner. But what it misses out on, I feel, is a better reputation. The Gloster really wasn't a success for MG, and I think the Majestor has the opportunity to make things better. And MG should really focus on making the total cost of ownership a lot better and more reliable for the Majestor to really cement its place in a segment that really works on goodwill. And I think that's where the big difference will be. While the Fortuner is aging, the Majestor has a very good chance on capitalizing those customers that want a future-ready vehicle. Level 2 ADAS, good ride quality, 4x4 with triple differential locks, and a whole lot more. This is a fantastic vehicle, only it needs better reputation, and I think that's more important than a more affordable price tag.